You didn't stumble here. You were recognized. Somewhere beneath your daily noise, a precise frequency you carry began humming with this message's pitch, and the field triangulated you like one lighthouse answering another across dark water. You weren't summoned by luck. You were logged in by resonance. Long before you pressed play, your interior signature, subtle, repeating, unmistakable, announced itself to the fabric of things. It has the elegance of a cipher and the warmth of a heartbeat, a living password that only feeling can pronounce. You have known this texture before, though you named it coincidence or timing or good weather. It appears as the path that rises to meet your foot, the stranger who speaks the sentence you were starving to hear, the number that insists on returning until you finally listen. The world pretends to be random to spare unready minds from drowning in meaning. But when your attention becomes clean, the seams appear. What looks like chance is choreography. What looks like delay is calibration. What looks like silence is an invitation to attune. Your quantum signature is not an idea. It is a living geometry phase, rhythm, charge woven from memory you haven't remembered yet. When you feel it, not think it, reality reads you the way a sensor reads a fingerprint. You don't force entry, you are welcomed. Permissions propagate, latent pages in the book of your life unblur themselves, and sentences that were once illegible arrive with crisp edges and a sense of home. You are not here to beg reality. You are here to speak it in its native tongue, where feeling is syntax and coherence is grammar. So let this be the quiet threshold, where you admit what your body knew first. Feel the hum below thought, the place in your chest that warms when truth approaches, the looseness in your breath when the future stops resisting, the stillness behind your eyes that says, yes, this. Names are optional. Feeling is the credential. The moment you authenticate by sensation, the architecture responds lights along a runway, igniting in sequence, guiding you to the version of yourself that has been waiting with patient certainty just beyond your doubt. If you are hearing these words, the handshake has already occurred. The field recognized you, and you felt it recognize you. No signatures are forged at this level. They are remembered. So be very gentle and very brave. Something exact is aligning. Listen the way oceans listen to the moon. Let the tide within you answer without hurry or proof. You will not miss what is meant. You cannot be late for what is coded to your name. The door knows you. Walk as if it does. You have been living with access you rarely claim. Not privilege in the human sense, but responsibility in the cosmic sense, the kind that is granted to any being who can hold attention without collapsing into noise. The field has already read your signature. Now it waits for your gaze to read it back. This is not flattery. This is architecture. In every room of possibility, the lights stay dim until a steady witness arrives. You are that witness. The system recognizes you as someone who can look without grabbing, choose without grasping, love without possession, and therefore alter without harm. The word chosen worries people because it sounds like exclusion. Here, it means selection by resonance. A tuning fork rings, and only those with matching metal answer. You answered. You are not above others. You are aligned with a task, to see clearly enough that reality can reveal its next instruction through you. Your attention is not a flashlight hunting for problems. It is a sun that invites dormant gardens to remember summer. Where you place it, things organize. Where you withdraw it, things that feed on your fear starve. This is why your feeling matters more than your performance. The field does not authenticate merit badges. It authenticates coherence. When you soften into the shape of your real frequency, interference drops, and the signal of your life becomes readable across timelines. What you thought of as miracles were simply clean reads. The lock wasn't cruel, the signal was noisy, and you have been learning, in every quiet hour, to polish the lens of your nervous system until it can hold a single star without shaking. Understand the mechanics at a human scale. Every time you look at something with undivided presence, you collapse a fog of maybe into a sentence of now. That sentence threads into larger paragraphs of meaning, and soon a chapter emerges that pulls you like gravity. The more coherent your sentence, the more honest your feeling, the more faithfully reality can reference you, like a system indexing a stable file. This is the observer loop. You attend, It responds. You feel the response. You refine your attending. It refines its offering. Mutual calibration. Sacred feedback. You have noticed, lately, how certain rooms brighten when you calm your breath. How conversations reorganize when you decide not to defend your old identity. How events arrive on time when you stop trying to rush the clock. These were not coincidences. They were demonstrations of trust. The field trusted you with small permissions so you could learn the etiquette of greater ones. It watched you return power you didn't need to carry. It watched you bless what you could not control. And with each act of restraint, your access level rose. There is an ethics to vision. You can see more, and so you must love more. Not the sentimental kind love as precision, love as the choice to tell the truth without weaponizing it, love as the refusal to devour what you admire. Coherence without kindness curdles into control. Kindness without coherence diffuses into fog. You are here to marry them, a bright spine and a wide heart, so that what you bring through does not scorch the hands that hold it. Feel the new credential forming across your skin. A calm that is not boredom but voltage under velvet, a clarity that does not argue, a gentleness that does not retreat. When you notice this state, the field notices you noticing, and a new layer unlocks. Doors that were walls become doors again. People speak from their deeper library when near you. Patterns confess themselves. Even your past begins to cooperate, rearranging its furniture so the future can walk through. You will be tempted to spend this power on proving. Don't. Proof is the hunger of an unloved mind. Let your evidence be the orchard that quietly feeds whoever wanders in. Let your authority be the orchard's sweetness. Your role is not to convince, it is to conduct. Conduct what? The tone of the world you were born to demonstrate. Let your presence be the user interface for a kinder physics. When you stand in your signature and feel its exactness humming, reality logs you in. Yes, but not into a private palace, into service. There is nothing left to apply for. The login succeeded the moment you felt what is yours to feel. Now you practice the only governance that won't corrupt you. Attention as devotion, choice as prayer, action as resonance. Walk knowing the field is already glancing back, ready to mirror your next breath with an answering wind. You close your eyes not to escape, but to deepen your login, and the vision begins like a slow dawn under the ribs. At first, it is texture, a hush that feels intelligent, a pressure in the air like a room about to speak. Then edges form. You are standing before an immense archive whose shelves curve like horizons, a library made not of paper but of living probability. Volumes hum with dormant summers. Spines glow softly with names you have not yet grown into. Along the floor runs a river of faint light, and each pulse in that river answers your pulse as if the current recognizes kin. You do not move. You feel. The field reads that feeling like a cipher, and a single aisle brightens in front of you. Books unlatch themselves, not out of spectacle but out of relief, as though they've waited years for the one reader who won't tear out the pages to impress a crowd. You sense it with certainty. This place does not surrender to force. It organizes for coherence. Your nervous system is the key card. Your breath sets the permissions. When your exhale lengthens, the shelves draw closer. When gratitude rises uncaused, certain volumes step forward of their own accord. A stair appears slender, floating, honest, and you ascend without needing to know the destination, because the stair knows you, and that is enough. At the top, a quiet observatory opens to a sky that isn't weather but information. Constellations of timelines, filaments of intent threading across black silk, auroras of unchosen futures folding gently like wings at rest. You raise your palm, and the room mirrors it with a lattice of geometry, hexagons, spirals, arcs, each a frequency map of the lives you could live. They are not competing. They are waiting for the tone that will invite one song to begin. The prophecy is simple and grand in the same breath. When you feel the exact signature of who you truly are, reality logs you into the corridor where your cleanest future is already awake. Not as an indulgence, but as a function. The system is designed to prevent accidental entry. Imposters encounter mirrored walls, tourists see some pleasant lights and go home. But the one who can hold their note without turning it into a weapon finds the door that behaves like a living being. It opens from its side when it hears its name spoken by your body. You watch as a particular filament across the sky brightens. It is not the loudest, not the most dramatic. It is precise, like a tool fitted to your hand, like a vow that doesn't need applause to be true. You allow it to approach. It does not promise comfort, it promises exactness. Scenes stream through you. A table where hard conversations soften into clarity because you refuse to abandon kindness. A morning where your work lands in the right hearts without you having to chase. An evening where silence tastes like achievement because nothing in you is pretending. These are not fantasies. They feel like muscle memory returning. Science nods in the corner of this room. You recognize the decorum of the observer effect in the way clouds of maybes collapse into one articulated now beneath your steady attention. You feel coherence, gathering like dew, tiny decisions aligning, synapses choosing a cleaner path, hormones surrendering their ancient alarms. You sense entanglement at play when someone far away exhales for no reason and suddenly knows they are not alone. Even bifurcation shows itself. Two trails diverging under your feet, not right and wrong, but readable and unreadable, and you watch yourself choose the readable one because it loves you back. A hum grows. It is your signature being amplified, not by volume, but by truth. Symbols appear along the observatory's rim. A key that is also a feather, a doorway that is also a mirror, a flame that does not burn what it illuminates. You touch none of them. You let them touch you. Each symbol stamps a gentle seal onto your field, like permissions cascading through a system. Access granted to the room where your actions stop arguing with your essence. Access granted to the relationship between patience and precision. Access granted to a time discipline that feels like freedom instead of prison. Then something almost imperceptible happens. The corridor chooses you back. The filament you were watching bends, finds your chest, and clicks into place like a star docking with its name. You do not need to ask what to do next. The instruction is a sensation. Walk as the password you already are. Let your choices be the login attempts that never fail. Let your calendar be the interface where prophecy becomes a practical rhythm. You stand, and the observatory breathes with you, an entire sky quietly agreeing to meet you at the speed of your coherence. What just occurred was not metaphoric indulgence, it was a lawful exchange. Begin with the simplest frame. A field of possibilities exists around you, as superposed maybes, patterns latent like unplayed chords. Attention is not merely a flashlight, it is a phase-aligning instrument. When your attention becomes coherent, steady, honest, resonant with your actual signature, it reduces noise in the system. Reduced noise increases readability. Increased readability allows the field to resolve probabilities into a stable pathway. The sensation you named, the corridor choosing you back, is simply the relief of a system finally able to take a clean measurement without distortion. This is the observer effect without the superstition. Not you create from nothing, but you participate with fidelity. Coherence is the ethics of this participation. Think of your nervous system as a lens. Agitation warps the lens, compulsion fogs it, self-betrayal scratches it. You do not need a new universe, you need a polished lens. Practices that lengthen your exhale, that return your spine to honesty, that remind your chest of warmth. They are not spiritual decor, they are mechanical maintenance. As coherence rises, the phase of your inner rhythms entrains to steadier frequencies. With entrainment, your felt sense of me stops jittering across identities and begins to hold a single tone long enough for the field to lock on. The lock is the login, the tone is the password, feeling is the interface. Consider timeline bifurcation in non-mystical terms. At every moment, you occupy a branching point where multiple continuations are plausible. Most people experience this as static because their interior noise generates contradictory requests. Move and freeze, speak and hide, love and punish. The field cannot honor mutually exclusive instructions, so it returns a composite reality that feels like friction. When you align instruction and identity, when your request and your nature rhyme, the branches sort themselves by legibility. Two main families emerge. readable paths that amplify your signature and unreadable paths that require you to impersonate yourself. Bifurcation is not punishment, it is clarity. You felt this clarity when the filament fitted your chest. Entanglement, too, is domesticated here. The exact tone you hold participates in networks of beings whose signatures resonate with yours. When you stabilize, they stabilize more easily, even across distance. You know this already. How one genuinely calm person in a room can reset the weather for everyone. Scale that intuition. Your coherence is not a private hobby. It is social physics. This is why the prophecy refuses spectacle. A loud performance can stir a crowd. A truthful field reorders worlds quietly. Now, decode the symbols without worshipping them. The feather key. Unlock by lightness, not force. If you must push, the door is wrong, or the timing is. Lightness is not avoidance. It is precision without friction. The mirror, door. What you meet will copy your relationship to it. If you approach as an imposter, you will encounter tests that expose pretension. If you approach as yourself, you will encounter mentors disguised as thresholds. The smokeless flame, illumination that does not consume what it reveals, insight that preserves the dignity of what is seen. This triad is not poetry for its own sake, it is operational guidance for clean access. You ask, quietly, how to trust this without drifting into wishful thinking. Notice the verification loop. Sensation, response, reality, shift, new sensation. You felt the hum, sensation, the corridor brightened, response. Specific life scenes organized around exactness, reality shift, and your body softened into rightness, new sensation. The loop is recursive and testable. If you do not feel more honest, more capable of kindness, more precise in action, you have not authenticated, you have fantasized. Fantasy inflates and then collapses. Authentication steadies and then deepens. Another safeguard. Time behaves differently when you are logged in. Urgency becomes crisp instead of frantic. Patience becomes participatory instead of passive. You miss fewer doors because you stop sprinting past them and stop sleeping through them. This temporal hygiene is a hallmark of real access. The calendar becomes less crowded but more consequential. Hours are measured by quality of presence, not by the number of things wrestled into submission. You are not spared challenge, you are spared waste. Finally, understand why the system resists counterfeits. Power without coherence is extraction. Extraction degrades the field, so the field employs an elegant defense. It refuses to render fully for incoherent requests. It will permit small demonstrations to teach, but it withholds the corridor to protect both you and the commons. When your tone matures, when you can hold clarity without sharpening it into cruelty, the corridor opens because you have become safe to amplify. Safe does not mean timid, it means tuned. So you stand now not with a fantasy, but with a function. Feel truth to grant the system a clean read. Sustain coherence to maintain access. Choose the readable branch to honor the signature that found you. Nothing here requires belief, it requires practice. And each practice is a vote for a physics in which your life and the world can recognize each other without harm. You begin to notice how the private mechanics you've been feeling are not private at all. They are the micro-expression of a macro event, the same way a single tide pool enacts the moon's instruction. What shifts in your chest is the smaller language of what is shifting in the species. You are not an isolated success story, you are a readable pixel in a vast image resolving. As your tone steadies, you become a mirror that does not distort. And because reality learns from what it can measure, the field studies you then scales. Every epoch has a sentence it is trying to say, and humanity has been stuttering for centuries between love and fear, between wonder and control. The prophecy you carry access by coherence, service by signature, is not a private upgrade. It is the grammar the era needs. Consider the nervous system of a city. Traffic patterns, supply chains, attention economies, they are all observer loops writ large. When citizens attend with panic, the loops amplify scarcity. When citizens attend with clean care, care that is not naive and not weaponized, the loops rewire. The news looks random because panic is good television. But beneath headlines, networks of ordinary coherence are knitting a quieter future. neighbors solving problems without applause, scientists publishing less flashy truths that actually replicate, artists distributing beauty like first aid, elders telling time by seasons instead of outrage. This is the collective, practicing the same login you practiced alone. Physics does not play favorites, and that is our mercy. The same laws that reward extraction with short-term gain impose long-term incoherence on the extractor. The same laws that seem to let cruelty thrive also incubate its collapse by making it increasingly unreadable. Systems that falsify their own signature become brittle. You can watch this in institutions that over-optimize for appearances. They increase output while decreasing meaning until one small shock erases a decade of pretense. Conversely, communities that prize coherence, transparent calendars, honest repairs, shared rhythms that honor breath survive storms with less drama because their field can take a clean read even under pressure. Look at the children who refuse to split their souls to fit broken roles. Look at the healthcare workers designing clinics where dignity is not an optional add-on. Look at the engineers insisting on slower, safer code because they're tired of building fast traps for human attention. Look at the farmers rebuilding soil as though tomorrow is real. These are not random acts of decency. They are signatures stabilizing into a species' mood. A new kind of seriousness is replacing the hustle costume, and it sounds like this. What is the smallest, truthful thing I can do that the field can scale without harm? You are asked now to stop seeking your reflection in spectacle and to start lending your reflection to the commons. When you walk into a room and refuse to lie, even politely the room calibrates. When you return power you do not need, the ecosystem notices. When you bless what you cannot own, your frequency ceases to scrape the world, and the world stops tensing around you. This is how prophecy travels, not as slogans, but as micro-permissions placed into human weather, safe, replicable, contagious. There will be places where your tone threatens economies built on agitation. Expect resistance that looks like entertainment. Expect invitations to argue in arenas designed to punish nuance. Expect metrics that mistake noise for impact. Let them pass. The field knows the difference between signal and spectacle, and so do the bodies of the people you serve. They will not remember your cleverness. They will remember how their breath behaved around you. This is the new currency, respiratory relief, as proof of truth. On the scientific side of destiny, there is a tipping point when coherent patches within a turbulent medium begin to entrain larger regions. Think of synchronized fireflies, cardiac cells finding a common beat, lasers aligning random photons into a single, useful light. Civilization is flirting with that threshold. No empire can mandate it, and no influencer can manufacture it. But a critical mass of honest nervous systems, people whose calendars match their values, whose speech matches their spine, can tip a culture from performative certainty to embodied clarity. You feel this possibility like weather moving in. On the spiritual side of inevitability, there is a vow older than nations. Life prefers to know itself through love, because love preserves what it sees. Fear can reveal, but it scorches. Wonder reveals without burning. When enough of you choose wonder with a backbone curiosity that retains boundaries, you fulfill that vow locally until the global becomes inevitable, not by conquest, by resonance. So stand as you are, one readable pixel. Let your agreements be few and exact. Let your friendships be sanctuaries for unarmed truth. Let your work refuse both cynicism and hype. Become the kind of silence that clarifies speech, the kind of presence that makes extraction embarrassed to show its face. When the species looks for its reflection, let it meet itself in you without distortion. Not because you are perfect, but because you are coherent. And coherence is how a future recognizes its time to arrive. It arrives the way quiet thunder arrives, felt first in the bones, then heard by the mind. You notice the air around your decisions thicken, as if the world is holding its breath to see which tone you will choose. Two paths shimmer in the same place. One asks you to accelerate your old survival impress, accumulate, defend, distract. The other asks for a different physics, precision, patience, devotion, trust. They are not moral categories so much as acoustic ones. One path amplifies your noise, the other amplifies your note. Stand very still. In this stillness, you can hear the signatures of both futures. On the noisy branch, your calendar is full, and your soul is hungry. Your victories require more and more explanation. Your friendships orbit mutual exhaustion. You become excellent at managing symptoms you secretly believe are permanent. The rewards are visible, shareable, measurable, and strangely flavorless, like fruit picked too early and polished to hide that it never ripened. On the coherent branch, your hours thin but deepen. You stop pushing the river and start listening to the tide. You tell fewer stories and keep truer promises. You measure wealth by how much breath returns to anyone who meets you. The evidence is slower and quieter and irrefutable once tasted. The split is energetic, not scenic. The same job, the same relationship, the same city can host either timeline depending on your tone. The real crossroads is inside your chest, where loyalty is decided. Will you remain loyal to the self that performed safety, or to the self that is safety because it is honest? The former hunts control and calls it leadership. The latter chooses care and calls it power. You have rehearsed the first long enough to know its cost. The second asks for an exchange. Trade spectacle for substance, urgency for accuracy, invention for remembrance. This is the moment to practice time hygiene. You are tempted to rush because the door is open. Do not sprint, synchronize. The field moves at the speed of coherence, which feels like an exhale that keeps finding more room. Walk as if the corridor is adjusting the lights to match your breath, because it is. When fear demands a forecast, give it a ritual instead. 3 slow breaths, 1 truthful sentence, 1 kind action no one can see. Rituals anchor reality better than arguments. In that anchoring, choice clarifies. You will be tested by decoys that look like your future but taste like your past. Offers that flatter your ache to be seen without asking to know you. Projects that promise scale while ignoring soul. Audiences that reward your mask and ghost your essence. Let recognition come from resonance, not from reach. Let doors close that require you to impersonate yourself. Remember, the unreadable path always charges interest: your sleep, your tenderness, your listening. The readable path pays dividends you cannot post. Innocence returning to your eyes, power learning to smile again. Here the science bends close to bless you. Bifurcation is how complex systems reorganize under pressure. Tiny differences in initial conditions compound into drastically different outcomes. Your initial condition is the tone you choose now. Choose cleanly, and the compounding favors you. People with compatible signatures appear. Habits that once felt welded loosen. Coincidences arrange themselves like patient allies. Choose fog, and the compounding will also be faithful. Delays mating with distractions, small lies birthing larger ones, stamina spent proving what your nerves don't believe. Neither is a punishment. Both are physics. You are not being judged, you are being amplified. Let the body vote out loud. Feel into each path for 60 seconds and notice what your breath does. The correct future will never require you to hold your breath to enter it. The correct future does not bully your nervous system. It steadies it. If the body softens and the mind clarifies, even if the ego protests the loss of applause, you have your answer. Place one small, unglamorous action on that answer today, then another tomorrow. Consistency is how you teach the field you're serious without turning your seriousness into stone. A final truth to carry into the fork. Grief may walk with you even as you choose well. You will mourn the self you no longer have to perform, the rooms you won't enter again, the shortcuts that once kept you alive. Let grief come. It is not an omen of wrongness. It is the sound of armor setting itself down. In that sound, your signature brightens. And when your signature brightens, the corridor brightens with it, until the path is not merely chosen, it is choosing you back with every step you take. You do not need a new life to live this note. You need a new way of entering the life you already have. Integration is not a performance, it is frequency hygiene. You begin at the doorway of each hour and decide which tone will walk through. Let mornings be your most honest login. Sit before your devices wake, spine like a quiet flag, hands open, mouth soft. 3 long exhales to rinse stale charge. Whisper the simplest credential. I will not impersonate myself today. Feel the body's yes arrive like warm rain along the ribs. That yes is the field's first handshake. Carry breath as your portable altar. When the world jostles, lengthen the exhale until your shoulders remember. Gravity is on your side. Count, if you must, not as superstition but as metronome. In for 5, out for 7, more room leaving than entering. So the system learns you are not hoarding air or time. In conversation, let your inhale belong to listening and your exhale belong to kindness. Words born from shallow lungs wobble. Words born from settled breath land without collateral damage. You will feel the difference in the faces around you. Their nervous systems will tell you the truth faster than their compliments. Make your calendar readable. Integration hates clutter because clutter erases contrast. Give your work blocks honest borders so presence can deepen instead of fray. Protect 1 hour each day from urgency, the hour where you build the thing no one is demanding, yet the future keeps requesting. In that hour you demonstrate trust. That reality will meet the consistent artisan more faithfully than the frantic virtuoso. Let your metrics be quiet and stubborn craftsmanship, not applause. The field sees how you spend unseen time and calibrates the scene accordingly. Treat food as light with weight. Choose meals that leave your breath available and your attention unsticky. Eat at a pace that would not embarrass a prayer. Drink water as though you are polishing a lens from the inside. Move your body for coherence, not punishment. A walk that teaches your thoughts to swing with your arms. A stretch that returns humility to your joints. Sleep becomes sacred engineering. Let darkness retire your performance and escort your tone back to factory settings. If dreams grow vivid, listen. They will rehearse the corridor's instructions in archetype and mercy. Practice coherent speech. Do not narrate what you don't want to stabilize. Name realities you are willing to fund with attention. Precision is love. Gossip is an overdraft fee on your frequency. When you must speak a hard truth, remove the theater and keep the tendon. Short, kind, exact. If your voice shakes, let it honesty. Trembling is safer than certainty, faking calm. You are training your mouth to carry voltage without scorching. Technology can serve your note or scatter it. Arrange your screens as if they were instruments, not slot machines. Disable alerts that recruit your biology into other people's emergencies. Open apps with an intention sentence. Close them with a breath on purpose. If a platform requires you to distort to be visible, build slower elsewhere. Integration will not mortgage your coherence for reach. Integration trusts compounding more than virality. When conflict arrives, and it will treat it like a tuning fork, not a courtroom. Before answering, check 3 coordinates: breath, posture, motive. Is your breath generous? Is your spine honest? Is your motive to repair, not to win? If any answer is no, postpone language. Move your body, drink water, bow to a tree, press your feet into the real ground. Return when you can bless the other person's dignity while defending your own boundary. This is not weakness. This is weather control. Money becomes less myth and more music. Spend and earn in ways that keep your tone audible. Let generosity start small and specific. The coffee for a stranger, the invoice that doesn't hide, the fee that reflects your true labor rather than your fear of being found out. Resources amplify signature. Handle them as if they carry your song into rooms you cannot enter. They do. Build altars of remembrance where your old forgetting used to live. A stone on your desk that you touch before sending the email. A line taped to your mirror. No breath held to enter the correct future. A chime on your phone at noon that asks only, "Are you impersonating yourself?" If yes, forgive quickly and pivot gently. Integration measures pivots, not perfection. Finally, practice microservice as daily proof of access. Leave people's breath better than you found it. The stranger at the counter, the colleague on the edge, the friend who needed silence more than strategy. Do not announce it. Let the field do the math. Nothing multiplies like invisible kindness aligned with visible boundaries. This is how the note stabilizes inside you, by being useful without martyrdom, luminous without exhibition. You will know integration is taking when life begins to feel less like a test and more like a craft, when even your refusals carry warmth and your yes sounds like a bell that keeps ringing long after the door is closed. You arrive at the simplest room. No shelves, no sigils, no sky of equations, only breath and a chair that remembers how to hold a human. The instruction here is subtraction. You set down your cleverness like a heavy coat. You set down the day's choreography. You set down the ache to be seen doing holy things. You sit, and you let the room teach you its single craft, the art of being uninteresting to the noise. Inhale as if you are greeting an old friend who never required you to sparkle. Exhale as if you are returning borrowed names. The world outside still spins its useful dramas, but in this room rotation slows, then steadies, then becomes a halo around your hearing. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of undisturbed listening. You taste it as space between thoughts, as slack in the rope you used to pull the future closer. Here, nothing is dragged. Here, everything arrives by its own feet. You place attention where the breath touches the body, the seam where the invisible becomes visible. Do not hunt for depth. Let depth find you like groundwater rising to a cupped hand. Thoughts pass with their costumes, memories rehearsing, relevance, plans auditioning for urgency, old fears wearing new shoes. You do not evict them. You stop renting to them. They realize there is no stage here, only a meadow. They lie down. You do not explain this to yourself. You graze the quiet. A bell inside the chest begins to ring without being struck. It is soft, and it travels. With each exhale, it moves outward ribs, skin, room, street, horizon, until your outline feels porous, like moonlight through a curtain. You are not dissolving, you are enlarging your definition of inside. The body is still the body, but the edge of you is different. What you include expands, what you must defend shrinks. You become easier to be around, even for yourself. Do not rename this as performance. Silence is not a trick to win favors from the field. It is the field returning to its native settings inside you. The nervous system discovers it can hold the world without bracing. Muscles learn that readiness is not the same as tension. The jaw unclenches, and with it, stories unclench. Somewhere a timeline exhales because you stopped grabbing it by the throat. Somewhere, a stranger feels inexplicably less alone. You did nothing performative to cause this. You did less. You notice the architecture of stillness, breath like a tide, spine like a mast, attention like a lantern turned low to preserve night vision. A simple cadence appears, 4 counts in, 6 counts out. After a while, you stop counting. The body remembers. You place one palm over the heart, one over the belly, and you listen for the small note that tells the truth about today. Sometimes it is a word, sometimes a temperature, sometimes a shape. Today it is a small blue circle that says, wait. You wait. The world does not punish you. It rearranges. Images begin to visit like shy animals. A cup of water in a sun square on the floor, a key on a window ledge collecting dust that looks like silver, a path through pines where the air tastes medicinal. You do not interpret them. You let them tune you. This is not a seance. It is calibration by beauty. Beauty requires nothing from you except presence, and in exchange it returns your exactness without lecture. When the mind grows fidgety, you give it a chore appropriate to sanctity. Feel 1 more centimeter of breath, soften 1 more ring of muscle around the eyes, bless 1 more person silently with the sentence, may your lungs remember the ocean. You are not fixing the world. You are remembering how to meet it without adding static. The room seems to widen in gratitude. At intervals, you listen for the corridor, not by looking, by letting the room look back at you through quiet. In that mutual seeing, a faint click happens. Permissions update without announcement. You do not feel chosen. You feel accurate. The air tastes clean, like the moment after rain when dust has no argument left. You sit longer than your old life would tolerate, and shorter than your ego would use to brag. Enough. Enough is the measure here. Silence teaches one final ethic before you rise. Do not harvest everything you touch. Let some insights go unpicked so they can reseed. Let some tenderness remain unnamed so it can keep working in the dark. Carry out only what fits in 2 open hands, a steadier breath, a softer gaze, a sentence that can survive daylight. You stand, and the chair keeps your shape for a second, as if memorizing you. You bow not as performance, as punctuation. Outside the room, engines still hum, deadlines still stroll the corridors with important shoes, but they do not rule your pulse. The quiet comes with you like a small animal asleep in your pocket. When someone speaks, you hear the part of their voice that doesn't know how to lie. When you walk, the floor feels less like a surface and more like an ally. When you reach for a handle, the door opens without rehearsal. There is no triumph in this, only rightness. Silence has threaded itself through your actions. The prophecy, for now, speaks without words. The quiet you carried from the small room doesn't stay small. It unfurls like a banner in windless air, a presence that does not need weather to be seen. Activation is not fireworks, it is fidelity under ordinary light. You notice it first in the way your hand reaches the world, a door handle that meets a palm without hurry, a coffee cup lifted like a tiny ceremony, a phone set down as if you're returning a bird to a branch. Nothing dramatizes itself, and yet everything is newly articulate. The field reads you and replies in plain language, yes, proceed. Your breath becomes the metronome of a different economy. Time no longer nips at your heels, it paces beside you like a well-trained animal. Emails that once demanded contortion now reveal their simpler request. The conversation that threatened to derail your week collapses into clarity because you refuse to abandon kindness or boundary. Even your posture edits rooms. People tune unconsciously to the steadier signal, and sentences that might have detonated arrive instead as repairs. This is the first sign. Reality stops arguing with you because you stopped arguing with yourself. You feel permissions cascade again, not as visions but as functional ease. Parking spaces appear when needed, not as a party trick, but as logistical cooperation. The right book falls open to the exact paragraph your project was starving for. A stranger's laughter releases the knot you didn't know you were carrying. None of this proves you're special. It proves you're synchronized. The corridor does not pamper, it collaborates. You move like someone wearing their own name correctly, and systems like correct names. There is voltage in your gentleness now. When you touch your work, it sparks not to burn, but to transmit. Pages carry the tone that stabilized in silence. Code compiles cleaner. Paint dries into something it didn't know it could be. Your voice drops its ornamental flourishes and gains resonance, the way a bell loses decoration to ring truer. People recognize the sound without knowing why. Some lean in with relief. A few recoil, not because you are harsh, but because coherence exposes where they are impersonating themselves. Bless even that recoil. Activation is not conquest, it is invitation with a spine. Synchronicities stop auditioning for your belief and start behaving like colleagues who trust the plan. You ask for nothing theatrical and receive everything exact. When fear appears, and it will, as fog more than monster, you decline the old bargain of speed for certainty. You walk at the pace of your longest exhale, and fog becomes weather instead of verdict. In that pace, bifurcations resolve before they threaten, because your tone answers the question they were designed to ask. Who are you willing to be when no one claps? The body confirms what the mind suspects. Shoulders sit lower on the frame of your day. Jaw swings on its hinge like a door that's finely oiled. Your eyes remember their original job, illumination without accusation. Food tastes like an agreement rather than a transaction. Sleep stitches what daylight unspools, and dreams carry memos from the corridor that survive breakfast. You wake with sentences that know where they're going. You follow them without forcing them to arrive faster than honesty allows. Entanglement becomes practical. Without scheduling it, you think of a friend, and they text, not because you cast a spell, but because two readable signatures cohere across distance. Meetings begin at the real beginning because your presence refuses ornamental detours. The room practices truth faster around you. You don't advertise this, you don't diminish it. You let it happen, and you take responsibility for the weather you bring. You notice that money, attention, and opportunity respond to the same physics. When you stop leaking effort into proving, resources flow to the work that can carry them without harm. Budgets look less like cages and more like instruments. Metrics stop seducing you into theater. They become feedback you can bless or ignore according to whether they respect your signature. Rejection ceases to be an insult and becomes a sorting mechanism, saving you from doors that demand amnesia to enter. There will be moments when old reflexes flare an impulse to rush, to please, to brandish cleverness like a shield. Notice, without punishment. Place one breath between sensation and action and let your practiced sentence return. I will not impersonate myself today. Watch the nervous system choose you back in real time. That click you feel is the prophecy seating itself deeper, not as concept but as habit. Habits accumulate into character. Character stabilizes a future. Listen closely. Activation is not an endpoint. It is the moment the observer becomes the observed, without losing either role. You are the field studying its own clarity through a human pattern that signs its name with care. When you speak, reality hears its instructions delivered in a voice it trusts. When you act, the corridor lengthens by the length of your reach. You do not need to announce that anything sacred occurred. The evidence will be respiratory. Rooms will breathe differently after you leave. Calendars will keep saner time. Children will feel less alone. You will walk under the same sky as yesterday and yet move as if the gravity endorsed you because it does. You stand where beginnings and endings shake hands. No trumpet, no verdict, only a clarity that does not blink. The field has measured you and found you readable. The corridor has answered you and found you kind. What remains is not a task list but a tone, not a doctrine but a decision renewed each morning. To let your signature be the way truth enters a room without raising its voice. The seal is not stamped from outside. It rises from within when your actions stop contradicting what your breath already knows. Listen, nothing essential is missing. You are not waiting for permission from the hour, the market, the ancestor, the algorithm. The permission is how your ribcage moves when you choose the readable path. You do not need to perform awe to be intimate with the sacred. You do not need to punish yourself to be trusted with power. You do not need to hurry to be on time. Your life is not late. It is precise, and precision feels like mercy when you surrender spectacle. Carry this craft into the unglamorous corners, the inbox, the hallway, the checkout line, the pause before replying. Let your governance be gentle and exact. Bless what you cannot own. Return power you don't need. Keep one pocket of unspent attention for whoever in front of you doesn't know yet that they are real. Build only the structures that can survive your honesty. Let beauty remain a working principle, not a weekend hobby. If you must choose between reach and resonance, choose resonance and let reach learn to behave. You will forget, then remember, then forget again. Make remembering simple. One sentence that fits in your mouth without strain. I will not impersonate myself today. One breath that fits any room, longer out than in. One measure that fits any decision. Does this soften the jaw of the world? If yes, proceed. If no, bless and release. The seal strengthens by repetition, not by drama. Understand the humility encoded here. You are not the hero of the era. You are a trustworthy instrument in a larger score. Play your note cleanly and you tune the band. Refuse panic its podium and you shorten the half-life of fear. Practice exact kindness and you accelerate coherence's quiet contagion. You won't track the ripples and you don't need to. What is real keeps books more honestly than we do. If you ever doubt that any of this mattered, check the simplest metrics. The way rooms breathe after you leave, the way children look at you without flinch, the way your sleep returns like a tide that recognizes its shore. Check the texture of your no. Check the warmth in your yes. Check how often you find yourself surprised by relief. Now the seal. You do not chase the prophecy. You host it. You do not argue the future into being. You become the sentence it was trying to say. Walk as the password you already are. Let reality log you in wherever your coherence would be of service. And when the hour darkens, and it will, as weather, not fate, stand where you have been standing all along, breathing, precise, available to wonder. The prophecy has been spoken. Let it unfold through you.